snapshots in this page. That is actually the kind of mobile client that is running. I will talk about this more. Let's look at what are the major features of the mobile testing capabilities in RTW. So basically, any test, right? You need to have any test that you wanted to record against an application. You need to have a recording capabilities. That means you just bring up your application and you interact with your application. All your gestures on that application should be recorded, and that's the part called recording. At the end of the recording, what you get is nothing but a test, a script. And the script, once you have the script, you should be able to modify, because just record and playback will not sometimes help, right? You have to modify or enhance your test. And once you have enhanced and you're ready to test or execute your test, there is the RTW provides a playback component. Using that, you playback or execute your test, and it will execute the test on the application that you recorded. And at the end of the execution, you need to get a report that will show you the overall verdict, as well as every step, whether it is passed or failed. If there is a verification point, whether it is done the verification correctly, whether the verification points are passed or failed. Let's look at some of the key components, and then I will probably bring up the RTW Eclipse Workbench and the my mobile device, and show you how we can actually record a test, playback a test, and show the report. As I said, that there is a test workbench. A test workbench is nothing but an Eclipse client. The test workbench is basically running on your desktop machine, and that is where you author your test, you modify your test, and you initiate the execution of your test. Then you have another piece called the mobile client. The mobile client is a piece of code that is running on your mobile, and that is the agent that will help you in recording your test, execution of your test, as well as uploading the execution result back to the test workbench. So here onwards, test workbench, whenever I refer test workbench, this is that workbench that is running on your desktop, and whenever I refer mobile client, this is that agent that is running on that device. So typically, if you look at the traditional testing, right, you have your desktop, and on which you have your testing tools being installed, and your application also available on the same machine. So everything is on the same machine. You don't need to interact with the different machines that is running the application. In mobile testing, it's slightly different, right? So you have a mobile device, and your application is running on mobile device, and so a mobile device probably will help you in recording your actions, interactions, and playing back. But if you really wanted to do the kind of modifications on your test, or you wanted to author your test without even recording, you need to have you need to have a little more real estate. You need to have the capabilities that will help you. For that, you probably need a desktop, right? So that is where the test workbench comes into picture. So these are the two entities here, and in the test workbench, you have a test editor. That is where you modify your test or author your test, and test reports. Test reports are basically at the end of the execution, reports will be available back to the test workbench. Execution happens in the device, and the mobile client on the device pushes back those reports back to the test workbench, so that you can view the test workbench. You can export it and give to anybody who is interested to see those reports. Let's go. Let me show you all these components, and I'm going to bring up Rational Test Workbench. So what currently you see is nothing but Rational Test Workbench. This is that Eclipse client I talked about. And if you look at the Rational Test Workbench client, you have some of the icons you will notice on the top is that one is that what are the applications that are available for you to test. For example, you develop your application on the desktop, right? So you probably use your Eclipse ADT or any other development environment, and you develop your application on your desktop. That means from the workbench, you can actually select the application that is available, or the application that you have created. So for RTW, you don't need any source code. You just need the binary.apk file in the case of Android. You just need to point to that Android, that APK file. So then the next icon that is nothing but display available devices. So let me click on the available devices. Okay. So when I click on the available device, you see all the mobile devices that are connected to the Workbench. So first thing is that for you to record and see the test on your Workbench, the devices and the Workbench should be in sync. That means the Workbench as well as the mobile should be connected to each other. And once the Workbench and the device is connected, you get a list of all the devices available in this view. So for example, I have a Android devices that is being shown here, and this is nothing but a VMware image of an Android device, and I have connected this device to the Workbench. That is why you see that entry here, generic x86 VM, is being connected. So what if you wanted to start afresh? So what basically you do is that you see an icon on the mobile device view that is called Add Device List. I click on the Add Device List. What you basically see is another window which has come up. And if you just focus on the window, it is saying to add a device, you need to provide the Workbench URL in a browser in your mobile device. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to my device here. I'm going to bring up a browser. And I'm going to point to this URL. .124 dot HTTPS, okay, HTTP. So once I enter that URL, and if you notice that the message is coming, it's saying you can download, or by clicking on that start download, you can download the mobile client. Basically, this is what customer do. Customer brings up their mobile device, they go to the Workbench, they want to add the device to the Workbench. So you go to the device, bring up the browser, enter this URL. So once you enter the URL, you get this option to download the mobile client. You just download and install it. So I'm not doing it right away, but I already have downloaded. And once you download and install, what you get is nothing but, let me close this, go back to the server. So once you install, what you get is nothing but this application that's called IBM Rational Test Workbench mobile client. And once you bring it up, you see that the IBM Rational Test Workbench mobile client is available for. Once you have installed this one, the first thing you need to do is that you configure your Workbench. So for that, you click on the first option that is saying configure your Workbench. Click on that one, and you provide the address that is being shown in your Workbench. The add devices shows the address, Workbench URL. You just need to provide that address. So once I provide the address, the IP address, then the device and the Workbench is connected. So I provide it, and once I provide it, it will actually tell you that your device is connected. So that is how you connect your devices. For you to connect your devices, you don't need to have the physical connection to the device. It is all in the network. As long as your Workbench and device is in the same network, that's enough. Or your Workbench or device should be able to communicate each other. That's it. So once this is done, your device is connected. And now once the device is connected, you can go back to your, before going back to your mobile client, let's see how we can configure your application. So now that you have a device, your Workbench, and now you have an application that you wanted to test. So what you do is that you go to the toolbar icon that is saying display available application. When you click on that one, you see that there are some applications already available for you, or maybe I added that one, but you have another application that you wanted to add. What you basically do is that you click on add application list, and here you just need to point to your APK file. As I said, RTW doesn't need a source code of your mobile application. It just needs a binary. So you just need to point to that APK file and press finish. That's it. So I already have added through application. I'm not showing you how we can add another one. So now once you add your application, you can go back to your device and you click on manage your applications. When you manage your application, you click on the manage your application. Whatever application that you configured in your workbench is now available to the device via this IBM mobile client. So now both device and the workbench is in sync, and whatever application you configure, you will automatically get it in the client. I'm going to start a recording session. So I'm going to record on a TripAdvisor application. So I'm going to click on TripAdvisor. Once I click on, you see that an overlaid image on the top that is saying, you can record, you can test, and the application is being shown. So I'm going to click on record. So once you click on the record, your application is in a record mode, and you can start recording your actions. So I'm going to TripAdvisor. I'm going to click on the hotel. I would like to order. I'd like to reserve some rooms in the hotel. So I'm going to search now on some hotels, and let me say Taj West End. There's some results which have come. I'm going to click on the one in Bangalore. So whatever I do here, it is actually behind the scene. It is actually recording. I'm interested in showing the price. Probably, I wanted to book the room for, some days from August. I can do, whatever interactions you do here will be recorded behind the scene. So I'm saying show prices. It is searching for the rooms, and probably it will get some results. It is asking whether, okay, I say no thanks. It's saying the hotel is not available, so I can go ahead and look for other hotels, for example, the other one. That's it. I probably just wanted to do this one and probably go back to the main menu. So now once you click on the home, the recording is finished. You notice that in your workbench now, so now the recording is done on your device. Because the workbench is connected to the device, you see on the leftmost corner of your workbench, you see a notification which is saying there is a new incoming recording, and if you wanted to generate the test for that one, click here. So I'm going to click there. Let me minimize this my device for some time. I'm going to do a click on that link here, and I'm going to provide a name for this one. Let's say TripAdvisor search. I'm going to say finish. Now it has generated the test for me. I'm going to say open test. So what you see is nothing but the test being generated. Whatever you interacted in your application in the device during the recording time, those are being captured, and we have generated a test out of that one. And if you look at the test, right, it is very much plain English-like statement. Each step as very clearly defines what exactly that action is supposed to do. For example, the first one was click on button, the no thanks. The first thing it was asked whether you wanted to register or something. I forgot what exactly it was. I clicked on no thanks, and that's being recorded here. If you select each of these, steps, there are details about the control that you interacted on the right side that is being shown in the test element detail. And it actually says what is the graphic object. Basically, it is a button, and what is the action you did, and that is nothing but a click. And it also says about how does that object is being identified. It is by the text. You can actually modify all these ones if you want. For example, the object action is currently click, and sometimes you can replace with the touch, or you can say focus on that one, whatever you like to do. And identification also, you can change it. Sometimes many of that application, it is not just text. There is a hint as well as there is a content description. Based on all these properties, I can identify my control. So when we record, we internally determine for each type of control what is the correct identification needed. So based on that one, we generate the test, and our identification logic is depends on the control as well as application. So for the particular step, the way we identified is by the text of the button, because button will have a label, right? The title or text, and that is identification logic for us. And one more thing you can do is that if you look at the object location, sometimes there are objects that doesn't have a clear label or clear way to distinguish from other objects, similar objects in the same page. In that case, you can actually define a context. You can say, find me this OK button that is above some other object or below some other object or near another object, let's say near a link. So those kind of fine tuning we can do for each of the steps. That will help you in identifying the object without ambiguity. If you look at the bottom, you see that for any step that I click on the test, we also capture the screen. It is not just capturing the image of that application. We also capture quite a lot of information about that object. You can also see some of the properties being captured. We also take the properties of the controls, and you can right click on the properties, and you can actually create a verification point out of that. Similarly, from the image itself, I can select the image, and I can offline edit my test, or I can insert a step that does a specific actions. For example, I can create a verification point offline. Once the test is being done, once the test is being generated, I can go to the screen capture image. I can, for example, I want to insert a verification point for the type of that control or value of the control. I can do that one. Let's see how the test, how you can play back the test. So what I'll go is that to execute the test, I'll go back to my device. I'm going to bring up my client on the device, mobile client. And so first thing is that you need to do is that either you can execute your test from the device itself, or you can execute your test from the workbenches. So if you are executing from the workbench, you need to switch this switch to active mode, that you need to toggle it, because now you're saying the workbench will actually run the test from the workbench basically, instead of running the test from the device itself. That means when you record, you have an option whether you can initiate the execution from the device or from the workbench. Typically what customer does is that they create the test and modify it, and they typically run the test from the workbench. Let's go to the workbench and try execution of the test and see if it is executing. So first thing it will do is that it will generate the test, and now you'll see that the test will be started execution on the device. Let me bring up the device and show you. While it is executing on the device, and we also give a live update of that each step execution result. So the step which is executing, we will also give what is the step which is executed, and also the image of that screen. And now it is executing the step, and it is entering whatever the details that we entered during the recording time. It's going to search for that hotel. And also while we enter, while it is playing back on these controls, it will also highlight the controls that will give us an indication on whether it is interacting with the correct control. So it has found that Taj West End and it's trying to reserve some rooms. And you'll also notice that on the workbench that report is being appended for each of the steps that is being executed. It's going to select that the dates, and now it's going to click on show prices. Now it is going to select a number of people, guests, okay. And it's going to click on the show prices and going to select another hotel and come back. At the end of the execution, the report will give you the complete verdict of those tests, whether it is a passed or failed. It also gives you a think time that will show you for it to find the control and perform the action, how much time it waited. So this application, remember when I recorded the TripAdvisor asking whether I want to remember, I said no. TripAdvisor, the next time it won't ask because it registers, that's why it is not able to find that no time which I entered, but it will still continue with the next step, and the execution is done. And if you look at your test, now the execution is done and you have the report, and you see the execution result, it is saying the execution status was error, and you can go to the what is the step which actually caused this error, and if you click on go to, it is saying it was looking for no thanks, because the first time when you interact with the application, the TripAdvisor was asking whether do you wanted to remember or something. I said no, so next time onwards it won't ask. So in this case, what you typically can do is that you can just disable that step. So this way it will give you, if you look at the execution result, it will tell you what are the steps being executed and how much the think time to find the object. It will also give you a snapshot of each of the control that it interacted during the playback. This can be exported and given to anybody who is interested. This is about the report. So we have seen how you can record a test, how you can modify your test. You have seen already the screen capture, and as well as how you can actually offline edit. You have executed your test, and you have seen the report being generated. With the test, what you can do is you can do a lot more. For example, you can actually data drive your test. So in case instead of Taj West End, you wanted to drive your test against an external data source. For example, you have 100 other hotels and you wanted to drive your test against those hotels. You can actually data drive. That means the data will come from an external source. We call it a data pool. That is available today. You can, so as I said earlier, from the snapshot, you can insert a verification point. For example, I can say verify the value, create a verification point for the value, and it will execute that verification point. So it actually says, if you look at the steps, verify that value equals to whatever the value I provided. You can also see that element details. It will give you the object hierarchy of each of the elements in that application. That way you can really map the hierarchy, and you can even see the controls behind the scene. So as I said, you can do a kind of error handling also. You can, a few error handling for each of the steps. There are options for inserting from the test itself. For example, if you want to insert your own actions, you can do from the test. You can remove, you can disable, and all other things you can do from the test. Let me go back to the slide and how to cover a little more. So I covered the mobile client. I showed you how you can record a test, you can execute a test. I talked about screen capture and the natural language test scripts. That is very easy to understand. We also provide the data pooling I talked about. Also, you can create a reference. You can create a data correlation. That means you can create a a reference, and that reference can be used anywhere in the test. We talked about the mobile test reports. I don't want to go deep into this one again. The one thing I wanted to focus here is that RTW has integration with the Rational Quality Manager. That's the first slide I showed you. That means you should be able to execute your RTW test, mobile test from RQM. So the test which I created, I can actually connect to a test case in RQM, and I can execute that test case from RQM. So that once the execution is done from RQM, all those test logs or reports are available to the RQM. So anybody, any team member, right, you can go and check for these test cases, how many times that execution is run, and for each of this execution, what was that result. I talked about the keyword. Keywords are available in RQM, and in RQM you can create a keyword, and the keyword can be used in RQM manual test. And those keywords you can automate using a mobile test. So in Rational Test Workbench, if you look at a view that is on the rightmost side, it says a keyword view, and basically what you basically do is that you connect to an RQM, and once you connect to the RQM, you get all the keywords that are available in RQM, and then you can actually right-click and right-click on the keywords and say automate the keyword within mobile test. We have a session that is coming up probably in another 1 month from Rational itself for keywords as well as test modularization using keywords. I think if you attend that session, you will get more information about the keywords. So I'm not going deep into keywords, but I just want to mention that you can automate a keyword using RTW. The virtualization, I touched upon virtualization earlier. Basically, if you look at when you develop your software or your application, you may not have all the services for you to do a complete integration testing. In that case, the Rational virtualization solution provides you the way to virtualize some of the services so that you can start with your testing in the early phase of the development. So that's what the virtualization helps you. We also have a integration tester. Once you are virtualized, you can do a kind of integration tester or service testing. Basically, you wanted to test all those messages or services or all those flows that is happening behind the scene, not just the UI. So for that, you can use integration tester. We also have a session coming up maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks about service virtualization and integration tester. You can attend that session for more details on that one. I talked about the complete application lifecycle management. This gives you a little more idea about the different interactions as well as collaboration between the different tools for the collaborative application lifecycle management. If you wanted to know more about the ALM story, you can just visit jazz.net. If you don't remember anything in this session, just remember jazz.net. Just remember jazz.net and go to bring up your browser and type jazz.net. Whatever I talked about, you will be available in jazz.net. There's a lot of publications, a lot of articles around RQM and RTW and mobile testing. Everything you can get from jazz.net. RTW is also part of IBM Mobile First platforms, and I talked about Worklight Application Center as well as Application Studio. The Worklight is, you can use the Worklight to build your application quickly, and we have an integration of RTW in our Worklight so that when you develop your application itself, you can actually test your application using RTW mobile capabilities. That's about the mobile first platforms and integrations of RTW with the mobile first platforms. If you wanted to know more about that, there's quite a lot of videos available in in YouTube about all the things which I showed, and more than that, it also talks about how you can virtualize your services, and you can also there is also a video about how we can use a Rational Quality Manager along with RTW test. these are the links which are shown. You can directly go to YouTube and look at the videos, and you can play around with this one. There are some links that will help you to understand, get more details about JAS.NET and Rational Test Workbench for mobile, application capabilities. All that is available. Okay, the floor is open for questions now.